Welcome to another episode of Intuition First podcast with your hosts, Heather McKay and Christine Mira. We're here to connect you to your intuition and the gifts of the universe to get more out of your life and your business.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Intuition First. I'm Heather McKay.
And I'm Christine Mira.
Hope everybody's doing well today. We are going to have a conversation about a topic that we both have experienced on some level, and just thought it might be a good time to address it. Have you ever been subject to a narcissist in a relationship or work environment or anything like that? Do you know what narcissism is? It's a good question, and it's something everybody should be able to recognize.
Yeah. So, the problem with narcissism is that unless you've been exposed to it somehow, some way, the first time you get exposed to it, and if you are a healthy, normal human being, it can be very emotionally disturbing, right? So, unfortunately, narcissism today is highly prevalent, especially since our last president emulated that sickness for much of his 4 years in office. And there's a level of tolerance that happens because people think that's normal in society. And in actuality, narcissists are abnormal. They don't have the full range of feelings and emotions. What do I mean by that? Well, you know how you might be concerned about somebody's well-being, their ability to feel, and you're worried about their feelings. A narcissist just doesn't give a hoot about caring about you. And in fact, their whole goal is to make you feel small and little and questioning yourself and wondering what you're doing. And the confusing part is when they first meet you, they want to enroll you, engage you, have you be like the center of the universe.
Right.
So they'll tell you all these great things about you, things that you want to hear. Maybe that how you show up or the way that you interact in the world. Like they'll totally love all of that up. And then as soon as they know that they hooked you emotionally, they start taking little bites and nicks out of you. Because at least in a relationship, my experience was like, okay, I need to know that you are so enamored with me that when I take little bites of you, you won't feel it as much. And in the beginning you don't, but over time you're like, what the hell? And here's the sad part of it. If you're a very empathetic feeling human, you'll make excuses for their behavior because you're just like, they can't be doing that. That's not really happening. What? No, I'm imagining it. There's something wrong with me. Let me try harder. Let me be better. Let me be smaller. So I can be with them. Let me just do whatever I have to do so that I can stay with them. And that's exactly what they want. That's what we call feeding off your energy, sucking your energy. They want that because they need that current because their own self-esteem is so poor and bad. And they feel like when they have dominance over someone else, that's when they're winning. And if they can destroy you, they will. Emotionally, psychologically, physically. So there's all different kinds of narcissists and the degree in which they operate. But anytime you get into their current, you need to understand, I'm here, and get yourself the hell out of there.
Right. And it's so slight. In the beginning, Christine, you're exactly right. It's like they're sort of charming or they have some sort of charisma or whatever that is, attractive and not necessarily even physically, just because they're showing an interest and you're flattered and or they're complimenting you in some way. And either, in your relationship, like as a date sort of situation or in a work environment, they're complimenting you in something to do with work or your abilities or whatever. And you just described it exactly. I mean, things that
that phase is called love bombing.
Love bombing. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then the same way is chipping. All of a sudden they have a huge mood change, and you're just like attacked for seemingly no reason, but they have their reason, and you're like, oh, what did I do wrong? How could I, what I did something to change the mood. I did something. And you really cannot recognize it the first time while you're in it, while you're experiencing it. But I'm sure that anybody who's experienced this is listening to what Christine just said and nodding their head, because that's what I'm doing, because it's exactly right.
well, love bombing is the phase in which they engage you, enroll you, enamor you. They want you to, emotionally feel connected to them. Like, oh, this person's really, they get me. I'm special. And if you're in a romantic relationship, they'll say that, oh, you're so special, you're so different, you're so whatever. And you're like, wow, somebody really gets me and they see me. This is great, especially the romantic one. In a work situation, I'm sure it's also very appealing because your superior is seeing you, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And you
Yes,
want to do well, especially if it's at a new job or something like that, where you're really trying to excel and impress and all those things. And you get those compliments and you get that good job and you feel like it's genuine because
yeah,
you've earned it.
yeah.
And in reality, later down the line, when you get blasted for some little tiny stupid thing, it doesn't make sense, but you start questioning your own ability in what you're doing, and you think you did something
and
wrong, which
and
causes
that,
you to question more and more and more down the line.
well, that might look like, did I do that? Did I
Yes,
did that? Wait a minute, no, I didn't do that. But he's saying, or she's saying, I did. So how do you know that you're with a narcissist? You're with a narcissist when somebody never takes responsibility for their actions. And you'll find that in situations in work, because they're usually a superior or somebody that's running an organization. But if they don't have any ability for empathy, in the sense of understanding your concern or hearing you, they're, they might be narcissistic borderline, but like a normal human being, when you connect with them, will acknowledge, like, yeah, I get it, or yeah, maybe I should have looked at that a little differently. But a narcissist will always blame others, or they'll find fault with others, and they're always a victim of. So these are red flags for people to understand, like, that's not normal. In my case, it was a relationship, and he just love bombed me until I succumbed. And it was probably about 2.5 months where he was just telling me all these amazing things about me and how much he loved me and what it was going to look like. And, he had kids and an ex-wife. And, I'd been through that before, so I wasn't deterred. But he would do things like, and I used to think it was because of his drinking. And most alcoholics are narcissists. So, that's a collapsed identity. But because he drank, he used to do some really mean things. Like, he'd say mean things about my kids, or he would create situations that would make it very challenging with me and my boys. And he would always say something about them, that they did this or they did that. And then I'd have to remind him, like, no, my kids, they were watching your kids, right? Like, they did do extra things, right, in the sense of making a contribution to the family or whatever it was, or building that bed or whatever it was. And yeah, he would have mean things to say about them after they would come to visit or whatever. And then there were times when he would break up with me. So he had broken up with me a couple times, because they do that. Like, when you're in a relationship, you're feeling okay and secure, and then they blow the relationship up because they want you to be needy. They want you to need that relationship and think of it as being precious and dear, and they feel like they're in control because you keep agreeing to come back together. So, I told him, if it happens a third time, we're done. And he did it when I was in Bali. And I said, okay, well, it's not working. All right. I think he was in like total shock because I don't think anyone's ever done that. And when I left, I never went back. I never entertained going back. I never talked to him. I didn't. When I left Seattle, I was done. I was done. I wasn't looking back. I wasn't turning around because I wasn't going to be with somebody that didn't want me.
Right.
I didn't need to be with somebody that, was like that. And at the time, I didn't even know he was a narcissist. I just knew that I was in contraction most of the time we were together, that I felt shrunken and small and just like never had my footing strongly. And when I did show up that way in a relationship, he would criticize my work or my, the way that I served the planet or how, I worked in cooperation and collaboration with other people. He would always have sort of like nasty little remarks to say to me. And then I came back and I got really sick, and my friend sent me a bunch of she sent me an article, and then all those articles linked to other articles. And I remember this one night, she sent it to me. She lives on the East Coast. It was like 3 a.m. out here, and I opened it up and I read it. And then the link took me to the next one and the next one and the next one and the next one. And it was like, I read my whole life, my whole 11 months with that guy. It was right there in all these case studies because it was classic. And
right.
So he was an introverted narcissist.
And how eye-opening, like, I remember when I had the same revelations, and for me, it was a work environment, but you can't even believe it. You're like, oh my gosh, this is what was happening. And I thought I was crazy the whole time, or that they were just not a nice person or whatever. And it was really narcissism that was happening. And I just wish that I'm glad that there's more information now about that condition or whatever you call it, because I think it would save a lot of people a lot of heartache, a lot of problems with their own self-worth, questioning themselves, all those things, if they just knew how to recognize it ahead of it or earlier,
Yeah, well, and narcissism is we've always had it. We've always had
right.
it. But it's now become sort of an all-time high in behavior and social acceptance. And if you're on the receiving end of a narcissist, you don't have, why I wanted to talk about it, is because you don't have to accept it. You just have to, identify it and understand that it's impacting you and make a choice to leave.
Right.
Whether that's your job, it's a relationship, it's a family member, whatever that's looking like, so that you can take care of yourself. Because when you're involved with a narcissist, the level of toxicity and gamesmanship and belittlement is really high. And when you think about self-care of yourself and what you would do for yourself to take care of yourself, if you have had an experience with a narcissist, and you just think about that, like I think about it, my stomach goes, my heart, everything crushes. And then I think about how I am now and how open I am and how expanded I am. Like that, just doing that body awareness gives you the ability to say, you know what? I don't need that kind of punishment in my life. I deserve better.
Right.
And I walked and never looked back. And people are like, how did you do that? And it's because I told them the whole time we were in a relationship, if it comes between you and me, I'm always picking me.
Right. And I wish more people, not everyone is strong enough to do that. I wish they were, and I'm glad that now I certainly am strong enough to do that. I did that. I walked away. But I see like younger people in their 20s, that haven't experienced that. They can't see it. They can't recognize it, but their parents can see it, or, their friends can see it, and they won't listen. And I just hope that they get some more education earlier on, to not, because maybe their self-esteem is already low. Maybe they don't have good.
I think the bigger question, if you're wanting to stay, is why do you want to have self-punishment? Because that's all that relationship is punishment, punishment, punishment.
Right.
So if you don't want to punish yourself, you don't want, I so know many people who have decades of relationships with narcissists, and they are just miserable people.
Right.
Right. So if that's not what relationship is about. Like if that was modeled in
No.
your home, that's really not what a loving relationship looks like. A loving relationship with somebody is where you're together in friendship and respect and what am I looking for? Commonality, same values, right?
Right.
Somebody
Compassion.
somebody that really wants to be with you and loves you expands you, makes you feel full, wants the best for you, is always looking out for you. A narcissist is always nicking you because their self-esteem is so bad that the only way they feel good is by damaging you.
Right.
So how somebody's treating you is how they really are themselves inside. Yes. I always say, people, when you love yourself and accept yourself, you can love others more deeply. Right. And that's what we want. We want to be able to love ourselves deeply so we can love others and share that experience. And if you're in a relationship with a narcissist and it's filled with punishment and self-criticism and judgment and contraction, that's your soul and that's your spirit telling you, hey, you're on the wrong path. Okay, let's look at this again. Don't stay here, because God doesn't want you to feel that. God wants the best for you. God, Goddess, Source, wants the best for you. Wants you to feel elevated and expanded and loved and cherished and, seen. So exactly. These are good distinctions. And if you stay with a narcissist, you have to ask yourself why. Why would you stay there? Because there's nothing good about that person for you to grow and to be the radiant being that you were designed to be.
And certainly not if you have children and that's modeled in your home, because they see it. You may not think that they see it, but they see it every day. And they may grow up to use those tactics in their own lives, or they may grow up to accept those tactics in their own lives. And
it's tough. No, I don't want to, I'm not trying to diminish. I mean, like if you're in a relationship with a narcissist and you share genetic matter, it's hard to leave. But you need to understand the modeling and the choices you're giving your children, that you are basically paving the way for them to have similar kinds of relationships. And yeah, the choice to leave is hard and big. I get that. I'm not minimizing any of this when you decide you got to go. But I just hope you choose you. Choose you and your kids first over the guy or the woman who just wants you to enslave you for their own mental rigors, because that's what narcissism is. Just look at the orange one, the big orange puff, and apply that, what that looks like when it's really leaned over to the right.
Yeah.
So
it's tough.
Well, thanks for the conversation.
Yeah, this has been interesting. I hope we've been able to enlighten some people, and they can recognize this, because it can be really bad for the time it's happening, but then later also there's repercussions after the fact, even after you get out.
If you really want to learn about it, find Dr. Ramani on YouTube. She's an expert. And then there's this guy, he's this big black dude. I can't remember his name, but he has a lot of YouTube subscribers and a lot of videos. He can describe it from the female perspective, like what it's to be like with a female who's a narcissist. And Dr. Ramani talks about it more in male terms, but she does have ones that, your mom's a narcissist, your dad's a narcissist. So, and she's got tons and tons of video. But if you just listen to some of their case studies and you dive into it, those two experts will really help you out in just a few hours' time. So you can identify are you or aren't you in that
Right.
relationship?
And that really helps. I mean, identification is the first step. And once you can spot it, you can spot it in a lot of places that you never noticed before.
Well, the red flags definitely go up. Woo, woo, and you're sort of like, okay, I've got my warning signals on, and and you see it in friends too. Like you think that are your friends, you see
Yeah,
that,
you
and
can.
and you get to decide. Like you're no longer um clueless and in the dark. Now you've got a framework and something to reference, and you just get to have a choice. Like, oh, do I want to do that, or hey, I don't want to do that.
Right.
Awesome.
Right. Definitely choose you. That's what
Yep.
that's what you need to do.
Yep.
So,
Agreed.
well, thanks for being with us today. I think that's probably a good spot to wrap up.
Okay. Thank you. We'll see
We'll
you.
see you next time.
Okay. Bye now.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Intuition First. We're so glad that you chose to spend your time with us today. If you know someone who could benefit from this episode, please share it with them and tag us on Instagram at Intuition First. We'd love to hear what you enjoyed and what you'd like to hear more of. And until the next time, keep listening to your intuition. It really knows what it's talking about.